Yo, entity on 212. Com check.
DPS, go. Inco, go. PUS, go. Surgeon, go. Booster, go. Copy that. We have a go from you guys.
This is Talking Sound.
Hey everybody, how you doing? Chris Jordan here with the Talking Sound podcast, coming to you live right now from the floor of Comicpalooza here in Houston, Texas, actually with the indomitable Ming from the I Sell Comics podcast and of course the Comic Book Men television show. How are you doing?
What's up, everybody? I love these mics, man. Lapel mics,
right?
dude. This is pro all the way, man.
I try.
What's
it makes
going
it
on,
nice
man?
and easy when you're on the road.
Oh,
you
yeah,
know.
for sure.
Like I was telling somebody in my panel earlier, I wore this exact mic going into the labor room to give birth. Like I was actively podcasting on my way in.
Wow, and I thought I was bad.
Yeah, no, I am full on addicted, Ming.
I thought I was bad. All right, my hat's off to you, dude.
Well, it's hardcore. You gotta live it.
I agree. I wish more people would follow your lead, sir.
Well, thank you.
Absolutely.
And you know, talking about living it, you lived it not only just the life of a comic book nerd, things like that, with Comic Book Men, but you've now gone out with your own podcast.
Yes.
What's that been like for you? What's that adventure been?
I love it. When I was a kid, up until like college, really, I wasn't very talkative, very shy. Mm-hmm. Was never gave my opinion. Didn't really like opening my mouth around people. Yeah. And after college, I met Kevin, and I saw him giving speeches and doing 5-hour-long Q&As, and it was very inspiring. But I really didn't. I was more of a behind-the-scenes guy. I would sit behind a computer, do what had to be done. But once he started podcasting, I saw how much fun it was. Like, wow, he's kind of doing his own radio show. There are no rules here. Like, this is really cool, this podcast thing. But really had no interest in doing it. And then I would appear sporadically on the Tell 'em Steve Dave podcast whenever they wanted to make fun of me. Sure. But I did a podcast with Mike Zapsik just kind of randomly, and we started talking about comic books because that's what he knew best, and I would ask him questions. And Kevin heard it. He was like, hey, I want you and Mike to do a regular weekly podcast about comic books. I want to put it on this podcast network. I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, just do it. I'm like, I didn't go to broadcasting school. I don't know how to run a show. Yeah. He's like, you know what, just do it. And when Kevin tells you to do something, you get really motivated and you want to do it the best that you can. So we started, I think, our first episode in 2011, and we haven't stopped. So it's 2018 now. We're almost at 300 episodes. We're at 298.
Wow, that's incredible.
And within 5 episodes, we kind of find this groove that most podcasters fall into.
You really do just kind of find your niche between each other, where you fall in line and stuff like that.
And prior to that, for other people, I would set up the boards and the mics with them, make sure it sounded fine. So I had the technical part down pretty well, but the actual podcasting part, the hard part, I didn't think I would ever do, but I was kind of pushed into it, and I'm so glad he did. I did by Kevin, the master.
Well, and it's kind of like we were explaining in our panel upstairs earlier today, and I'm sure it's what Kevin spotted in you. It's the fact that you're passionate about it. Yeah. Like, you love it. You live it. Like, good God, right now I'm looking at a flux capacitor on your arm. Yeah.
I really love this stuff.
I mean, when you love it and you live it that much, and you can sit around and talk about like a comic or a character for 2 or 3 hours with someone, dude, you can make 30 minutes of content. Yeah, and
what's great? What's greater than just straight out talking about it and recording it and sharing it with other people. Exactly. So it's really a beautiful medium. I think everyone should record a podcast. Everyone should be podcasting.
Everybody should at least see what it's about, especially if you have a topic that you're like passionate about, something that you love. There's someone else out there who's into it.
Everyone's got a topic, and I think Kevin put it best. He's like, you don't need talent to podcast. All you need is experience. You need to just relay that one killer story. That's it. To the audience, or 1 or 2 or 5. I don't know how many. You might have more killer stories every week. And relay them through a microphone. I like having a co-host or 2 co-hosts or people to bounce ideas off of and people to make fun of in front of me. Sure. That person usually happens to be Mike Zapsik, but not always. And I truly love it. It's great.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for taking the time. You've got some people piling up to
no
say
problem,
hi,
man.
things like that. But
No problem.
we'd love to have you on again, talk more about it, talk more about the genre.
I would love it.
It.
Congratulations.
Absolutely. Thank you.
On all your podcasts. And keep it going. That's all I got to say.
I've already gone and found you on social media and liked you and all that kind of stuff.
Thank you, my friend.
So I will do my best to share this episode with you over the next day or so.
Thank you. Thank you very much,
Take
guys.
care. Enjoy the rest of Comicpalooza.
You too, sir.
All right. Well, hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Talking Sound podcast. What a great interview we just had with Ming Chen from the I Sell Comics podcast, as well as the awesomely awesome show Comic Book Men from AMC. As just kind of a recap today, is we did so much. We got to walk around Comicpalooza, myself as part of Talking Sound and Dudes and Beer, as well as HD Universal Network, where they're doing a panel on the do's and don'ts, tips and tricks on podcasting, along with Billy Stewart from the Scary Dad podcast and the HD Universal Network as well as my fantastic and lovely and loving wife, Amy Jordan, host of the Yes But Why podcast.
Hello.
Also on the HD Universal Network. And we're headed back right now, and it was one of those things like, hey, we got a little time in the car. Let's just kind of do a wrap up, you know. Let's just kind of wrap up what it was like for you to go work your first convention.
Yeah.
Because it was your first convention to ever work. I'm in these facilities with these crowds doing this stuff all the time, but for some people it can be a little daunting. It can be a little overbearing. It can be overwhelming. Just the sheer size of crowd itself can just wear you out, much less giving of yourself and doing things. What did you think of the response to our panel this morning? Let's start off there.
Actually, first I'd like to sort of answer what you first said, which was like, how do the crowds affect you? I'm sort of an extrovert with introvert tendencies, meaning like I gain like energy from crowds. So like even though like just now I taught an improv workshop, and that improv workshop started with like 6 people, and then all of a sudden there were like 35, and I was exhausted when I first started in that room. As soon as I got all those people there and they were just like looking at me and interested in what I had to say, I was psyched. I was like into it. I was excited. I got it all done. And this morning was the same. When we did our tips and tricks of podcasting panel, we were there, real early, and, I was nervous. I didn't know how many people to expect. But then we had a great turnout. I mean, there were like 40, 50 people in that room. And it wasn't just like...
in the back.
Yeah, there were people standing up. There were a few people that were like nervous to stand up in the back, so they left. Like, it was a great opportunity. I really just loved being in the room with everybody. And I liked the panel, the podcasting panel, very much, because I liked the fact that, like, we were all on the same page. Like, we were all interested in podcasting. We wanted to talk about it. We wanted to figure out how to be better at it, and, coming together to help. I really liked it. What was the part that you liked?
Well, really for me, it's the teaching. That's why I started this show, if you remember, so many years ago, whenever I left broadcast, and you were like, so what's next? I mean, of course you're going to go back to corporate AV, but what's next for you? Like, what's your next challenge? And it took me a month or so, and it dawned on me that, hey, wait a minute, I had this studio space, for Austin Hot Mods and stuff like that. And it was like, I may do a podcast. Like, that'd be pretty cool to do a podcast about my industry, like people telling their stories as far as why they got into it.
Yeah.
Like I said in the panel this morning, follow your passion, do what you love. That's what I want to tell people day in, day out. If you're miserable at work every day, think about that. Think about that. Like, don't wake up in the morning and leave your job, people, all right? Not without a backup plan. But if you have other skills, start exploring those. Start reaching out. Start stretching your legs. Start getting creative. It's a freelancer's world out there nowadays, folks. And it's literally the fact of, hey, people crowdfund all kinds of crap, and it gets made.
People have been crowdfunding health insurance recently, too.
So it's one of those, like, do it. If you think you want to do it, give it a shot. Give it a shot.
Yeah.
Do it.
Can I just tell you, Chris, that the Yes But Why podcast was inspired by Talking Sound podcast?
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, because
How so?
you decided to do Talking Sound because you wanted to talk to the other people that were in your same industry and talk to them about what their job was, so that people who were starting out in the AV industry had an idea of all the different kinds of jobs that there were in AV, like all the possible paths you could take. You can work in corporate AV, you can work for a church, you can work for a traveling show, you can work for a business, you can be the tech guy just for a startup. There's so many jobs to be had, and Talking Sound is usually a feature of those things. All the different ways in which you can use audio-visual knowledge to do what you love. And podcasting is just another one of those things that you can do. Some of the people in the room that we met this morning had all sorts of AV knowledge, but they weren't really sure what they were going to talk about. And some people in the room knew what they were going to talk about, but had no idea how to set anything up. So it inspired me to start my podcast about people like me who are doing the same kind of work that I do in the theater, doing comedy or whatever sort of creative stuff that they want to do, and to interview them to talk about what our life is. How are the different ways that you can embrace what we do? Sure. And I, again, podcasting is under that purview as well. It is both creative and both for the AV knowledgeable. Well, and it's kind of like I've explained to numerous people who ask, how do I get into that field? How do I do that? Number one, pardon the language, pardon the harshness, get ass off shoulders and go do it. Number one. If you want to learn what it's like to record, go out and buy a USB microphone. It'll cost you $50. Yep. And you can get free recording software like GarageBand, and you can start recording tomorrow. I was just telling two people who came up to me and were like, hey, we were at your podcasting thing this morning. Can I ask you a question? And I said, sure. They were talking about what they were going to talk about and how they were going to, figure out their guests. And I ended up telling them that when I first started, I didn't know who to ask either. So the first 20 interviews of Yes But Why are personal friends of mine. Yeah. And I told them that the byproduct of having the first 20 episodes be friends of mine is that I learned how to edit audio. Why? Because when you're friends with people, you say things that are probably inappropriate for a large audience. Sometimes you make fun of other people that aren't in the room.
Sometimes
and you can't say that. You can't be doing that.
Yeah, there's some inside baseball that happens, things like that.
So I learned how to edit audio because I had to edit those episodes so it wasn't just us being a bunch of assholes. So that's the beauty of it, is that you get to both go have fun with your friends and bit by bit learn how to do audio editing, learn how to do producing, learn how to be a better interviewer. Mm-hmm. It's just cumulative learning. It is. I think everybody in the room really got that too. Yeah. Like, I feel like they were cool with it. Yeah. Like, you're gonna have your growing pains. You're gonna have your, oh my God, I can't believe that. I mean, good God, I've had episodes, Dudes and Beer, back in the day before we went live, folks, where I went to go edit it the next day and we just didn't have an episode. I couldn't do it.
it was one of those, like, and I'd call the people that were on it with me and be like, yeah, that can't happen again. Like, there was about 20 minutes of that I would have to edit out, and 20 minutes is way too much to edit out, and there's no way for the flow to still be there. If we can't just sit back and have the conversation and not do that, we need to not sit back and have the conversation.
Yeah, it's very hard. In fact, I would say that one thing that I did learn, I didn't tell everybody because it is, your friends are your bread and butter when you first start,
Sure.
but I try now to avoid people that I know too well.
Yeah.
I interview mostly acquaintances now. People
Yeah.
who, I know them, I trust them enough to invite them to be with me alone in a space,
Well-
but not so well that I know everything about them or that we're going to go on a tangent that, like, makes no sense to anybody
Well,
but us.
and see, with Dudes and Beer, I kind of made an avenue for that, because there were episodes where, I wanted people like Stone Winchester on. I wanted just people that I have good random conversation with.
Yeah.
Because it makes good episodes. It makes good content whenever we're like, okay, we're going to cover these 3 topics if we can. And we get into some deep stuff and start talking like Anunnaki and like ancient religion and stuff like that. And it's like, oh yeah, that's meaty, that's good. But I specifically made like an avenue of shows within Dudes and Beer that were that. So that wasn't like the regular weekly episode. You know what I mean? And that's part of what we talked about today, crafting your brand. What are you? What kind of content are you? That kind of stuff.
Was there anything in the seminar, the panel that we led today, that you feel like maybe went differently than you expected, or you ended up saying something different than you expected?
Not really. I basically covered things the way that I imagined that I'd cover them, because, I mean, especially on this show, I've talked a lot about a lot of this stuff. We've talked a lot about being a band and being committed, like one of the biggest ones that I wanted to talk about, and I talked about it for probably a good 2 or 3 minutes, and then pass things around the table, but it was the concept of, are you recording for play or are you recording for business?
Yeah.
Like, if you just want to have a podcast and you don't want to chase sponsors later, you just want to say some stuff and have some stuff out there because it's cool and it's fun, and it absolutely is.
Yeah, why not?
Hell, Dudes and Beer went on for a year and a half before we got a sponsor, or before I thought we were ready to be like, okay, we have enough now that we can chase sponsors, that I had that confidence. Same with Talking Sound, as far as views, regularity, visits, things like that. But if you're just ready to go out and have a fun podcast, dude, go do it. Make it happen. If you're not worried about making money or getting sponsorships, just do it. And that was one of the things that I really wanted to cover. I think I wish I could have gotten into a little bit more of the monetization, but which was really the last part of the presentation in the panel.
Yeah, it ended up dropping off, but it's okay. I mean, monetization is a very meaty. I had a few things too about how to like promote and stuff like that in mine, but it felt like we were in a place where it was more about empowering the people in front of us and less about getting down to brass tacks.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, I guess technically if we ever did that again, or when we do it again, rather, that seminar will be longer than an hour.
Oh, yeah, no. It was a panel. We definitely
tried to get as much as we could in the 50 minutes that they let us have. But
I put a dream list down of what I wanted covered, and we got things covered.
I think we got like 87%.
Oh, yeah, no, we got a good amount of it covered, and some really good
We connected with people.
content.
We made friends with like 2 or 3 other podcasts that were in existence, which was great.
Yep.
And, it was really great. For me, one of the things that I was surprised by was the thing that Billy brought up, which I think is great, and I'm going to add to when we teach it, was the idea not just of joining Facebook groups that are about podcasting, that, so that you can connect with other podcasts, but also to find Facebook groups and Twitter groups and whatever that are of the topic that you're into. So like mine's about comedy, so I just find lots of comedy groups. Or I have been talking to a couple of screenwriters recently, so I joined a couple screenwriting groups to be like, what are people like what's the thing that they're into? Because I'm not involved deeply in that community. I'm involved deeply in the improv community, but in some of the other creative things, I have to do research. And the Facebook groups really help to do the research. And that's what Billy was talking about when it came to him finding guests through those groups, people who are really active, and also knowing what's hot. Like, should he do an episode about A or B? Well, on this forum, everybody's talking about A, so do A. You know, like, if you keep your eyes out there, you really can, have your finger on the pulse and also be talking about what you love all at once. And, that's kind of the key to keeping and maintaining an audience. But I felt like that part to me, when I was surprised by it, and then I was like, this is great. I'm so glad that we talked about this.
Well, and what's interesting more than anything, and Billy and I were talking about it the other day, and I wish we could go into the concept a little bit more in the panel today. Want to in the workshop that we're building out of the panel. But the concept of evergreen content. The concept of evergreen content. For those of you that don't know, that's a website term. That's a SEO web building term.
That's not just.
It's a blogging term.
It's not just web building. Evergreen is also used for other things, but it's okay. Evergreen content.
In this terminology, what it means is basically content that even 10 to 15 years from now will still be relevant.
And or interesting.
A show about comedy and what it is to be a comedian. Until the day we don't have comedians, that's going to be relevant to an audience.
Yeah, when you're listening to an interview with one of the comedians that I know in Austin who's about to move to Los Angeles and they are excited and unsure of what's going to happen, that is an experience that will happen with a million other people. And to have them be able to listen to somebody else that went through it and go, oh man, I'm nervous the way that person's nervous. I feel better about myself because I'm just like them. That's exactly what it is. That's in fact what I think. Something about Dudes and Beer that I think is good is that you compliment. It's that not only you guys talk about current events, but you talk about them in the context of a larger sense of the world. Like, it's not just like, hey, did you hear this happened? It's like, this happened. That to me feels like this is what the world is reacting to, and it's an interesting way to examine the world as it is. Like, you and I watch a lot of documentaries that are similar in that they're showing us this moment in time, and they're revealing this situation that happens. And we've watched some where, like, the context of the year that it's being told about affects the details of the story, but it's still a universal story. It's like, oh man, that situation, that crime happened because of blank, and that happens every day today. Or like, man, that guy really put a lot of effort into working for that cause. That happens today. There's people doing that. You know, it's there are universal themes, you know, and even though not to be but I kind of think about that when you and I decided to name it HC Universal. It's not just universally the projects that we are going to put out there, but it is also, we are trying to communicate a universal truth.
Yes.
In everything.
Yes.
All of the niche podcasts, all of the different people that put themselves out there, they're providing a universal truth. And sometimes that universal truth is, man, we all think differently.
Sometimes it is. Sometimes it's, man, I am just all about this.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like I said in the panel this morning, you know, I've been a part of a lot of creative communities in my time. I've been a musician. I've been an audio engineer at clubs and venues and things like that. I've been in the broadcast world, and all of those industries, even though they are entertainment, and you can attest to it, not just being an actress and being on screen, but being in theater and being a comedian and being an instructor, it's cutthroat. It's cutthroat. You know? Like, sure, you're there supporting each other, but at the same time, like, yeah, you're trying to outdo that troupe that just went on stage before you. You know, you're trying to one-up. Whereas in podcasting, I don't really see that one-upsmanship. And when we were talking with Ming earlier off mic, that's what he was saying he loved about it too, was it just seemed to be that, you know, it's more about like podcasters helping podcasters, and, you know, podcasters just being in this community of people that are passionate about talking what they're passionate about.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, it's like the two faces of humanity, I guess. There's the part that wants to be an individual, that wants to be independent. I'm not like you. I'm different. I'm better. Don't look at me. I'm my own person. And then there's the other side who's like, God, I wish I had a community. Where are my friends? I need my girls. I need people around me.
Yeah.
Hashtag squad goals. Like, you want to have people around you. You want to have a community. So, yeah, we are competing with each other in various ways every day. We're competing for who gets to get off the exit first. We're competing for who's going to stand in line first at the grocery store.
Exactly.
Which boy we're going to get to go out on a date with us. Whether we're going to get the last piece of fish at the restaurant we like. Whatever it is. It's like we are in competition with each other. But that doesn't mean we don't have friends. We have friends. And we connect with those people and we share with those people. And that's what the two sides of it is. Like, human beings want to fight with each other and they want to love and connect with one another.
Yeah.
That's pretty much how it goes, you know? And I just feel like you have to acknowledge both sides of that when you're creating your podcast, when you are imagining yourself as a podcaster. Yeah, there might be, who knows, man. You and I encounter great support in the podcasting community, but who's to say that somewhere USA there isn't like a, you know, top movies podcast, and the other top movies podcast in town is all like, listen, you better stop posting your episodes because we're the only one here in Kingston, Tennessee that's going to be talking about the blockbuster movies coming out. I don't know. Who knows?
Is Blockbuster still around?
No, I don't mean at the... No.
Oh.
You know what I mean. You know what I mean.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's what I mean.
Yeah.
I was like,
Sorry.
I'm sorry.
I took a sip of my drink. My iced tea almost killed me.
No, it's good because he's driving too.
Yeah, it's nice.
But what about today, other than our panel, that did you like? Like, at Comicpalooza, what part of it did you enjoy the most, other than our contributions?
You know, my favorite thing has really always been the hunt.
The what?
The hunt.
The hunt for what?
The hunt. Just finding things like the figures I bought for Dalvis. You know, like it's something I've been wanting to get, something I've been wanting to find. So it was like, okay, cool. I'll look for some while I'm here.
Okay.
You know, and like, you know, scouring the place, trying to find somewhere. Then, oh look, there's a place with the couple boxes of old broken like He-Man with like one arm and stuff like that. So cool. Let's see what they got. You know, and digging through and rooting through stuff. It's great. Like Billy said, like he's like me. We go in, you know, like I've collected most of the comics that I want to collect. You know, there is still a couple key issues that are probably like $25-$30 that I'll get here and there as time goes on, just because I want them. Or, you know I'll see the artist at a show and I can get it signed, you know, and I would like that in my collection. because I read the issue, but I never owned it, and I always wanted it. But yeah, for me, it's the dollar bin. It's finding hidden treasures. It's finding old stuff. You know, like one of the things I look for now is really like old school sci-fi stuff. Old school sci-fi, like Reader's Digest style magazines, stuff like that. The artwork in them is awesome, and you get cool stories from people like Ray Bradbury, and I get Isaac Asimov and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like actual science fiction writers of the time, you know. But it's like pulp cereal, you know. It's great. It's like the stuff that they'd base like old Twilight Zone episodes off of, you know, and like Ray Bradbury's theater. Stuff like that.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's great. I like finding stuff like that. What is it about shows like Comicpalooza that you love the most?
I like talking to the people. I like meeting different people who have different interests, especially because, like, I'm not really deeply into comic books, or, you know, like I like the movies, but I'm not really like, I don't read the comic books, I don't do that thing, but I love people who love stuff. And so I really just enjoy meeting people like the writers that we met today and some of the artists that we talked to. I just like the idea of meeting different people who, you know, are writing for a living, or are drawing for a living, or, you know, I'm just fascinated with people who are excited to do what they do, and it's a collection of people that are generally excited to be there. You know, you rarely see an angry person at a Comic-Con, if only just because they're there out of choice. They like paid for a ticket to go see some stuff. I mean, certainly things don't go well anywhere, but, you know, I just mean they are there because of their love of the situation, and I enjoy just talking to people and getting to experience the joy of their, you know, their costume that they got to wear, or the, you know, the comic book that they finally got to buy, or the, you know, the fact that they bought all the character of their one favorite thing, whatever it might be. Or they met the person who they really thought is the best actor, and they got that person to sign something for them. Like, that's great. That's great. Have a wonderful time. I just like seeing people having a good time, and people are always having a good time. Heck, we went by that, like, a puzzle thing, and there were like 25 people sitting around doing a puzzle. I love it. I love it. Like, so cool. They're just having a good time. They're just doing their thing. I just like meeting people and watching people. I can buy stuff, or I don't. I didn't buy anything today. I just sort of was like, oh, sure, okay. It just didn't occur to me that I needed anything. And I just, you know, enjoyed mingling with different people and seeing whatever I can do to be a positive part of their life. I just like smiling and making them happy.
I love the creativity of cosplay. I remember the day when cons didn't really have cosplay, and they didn't really encourage it necessarily, but things like San Diego Con, you know, the big con, Dragon Con especially, stuff like that really changed that and brought it to the forefront of the Comic-Con world, and I think it's a great cool part of it. You know, people get to really express their favorite characters, their love for the artwork, their love for the genre, and truly, I've said it on Dudes and Pierce so many times, truly one of the only American forms of art. One of the only forms of art that, like, was begat here in the States.
Cosplay?
Comic books.
Oh.
Comics. Comic strips in general.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah, they began here.
Really?
In the form and way that we know it, yes.
Huh. Interesting.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. Yep. The more, and as LeVar Burton would say, the more you know.
I don't think LeVar Burton said that.
He didn't. I'm sure he said it at some point.
I mean, the more you know was an ad campaign. It was a different kind of situation.
Yeah, but he was all over that kind of stuff. I guarantee you can find a LeVar Burton, the more you know.
I mean, those are 4 words that, like, people say.
Yeah.
It's not crazy for a person to say the more you know.
Yeah. It's not.
All right, we're spiraling.
Yeah. So, on that note, everybody, thank you so much for tuning in. Make sure to tune in to the episode that is posted about podcast tips and tricks. It's a great panel, some great information there, a couple of good questions from the audience. We didn't have a whole lot of time to take a lot of questions, but on that note, we're getting ready to pull into the neighborhood, so time to watch out for the children at play. On that note, thank you so much, Amy, for coming on the show and just sharing your experience of what it was to work a panel, to go and work a convention, to go at things in a different aspect than what we're both kind of used to.
Yeah.
And thank you, everybody, for so much for listening to the last 4 years of the Talking Sound podcast. Make sure to check us out on our home network, the HC Universal Network. You can download the new free HC Universal Network app to hear all the great stuff from not just Talking Sound and Dudes and Beer and Yes But Why, but Scary Dad Podcast, John Bound Politics, Blah Blah Show, Therapy Hour with Rusty Lozano, and many more to come. On that note, everybody, check us out online, talkingsound.com. You can find all the articles there. Check out yesbutwhy.com for Amy's material.
It's talkingsoundshow.com, isn't it?
You can also go to talkingsoundpodcast.com.
Oh, I didn't know you had talkingsound.com. Man, he puts all the URLs. I'm sorry. I just didn't want him to go to the wrong place.
And then while you're there, check out all the episodes. Check out all the great articles from the industry, great tech articles, stuff like that. Until next time, everybody, keep reaching for 11. We'll take care, and we'll talk to you soon.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
This is Talking Sound.